Okay, hey everybody. Phil's back with Empires of the Millennium. This one we're going to meet the Franks. So we're going to talk about playing as the Frankish Empire in the game. And the Franks are you start with Charlemagne, okay? And you try and build out Charlemagne's Holy Roman Empire, and then potentially try and keep it together. But as the game progresses, you sort of have to decide whether you're going to go the French route, the German route, the Italian route, or some mixture of the three. But the whole time, one of your key areas of focus, is going to be the papacy itself, and tying yourself together to it, and protecting Rome and its environs. That is until the investiture controversy happens and things fall apart, and then you decide whether the Franks are going to try and stay as masters of Central Europe or try and adventure into the Holy Land during the Crusades. So they can be frustrating to play, but they have a lot of different options at the same time and are going to interact with uh, any of the factions in Europe, especially the Byzantines, the Norse and Normans, and the Umayyads. They'll also be in a position where they want to be concerned with the English neutrals, or I guess not English at this point, the Anglo-Saxon neutrals, and also the Spanish Christian neutrals, right? And the neutrals in southern Italy and the neutrals in Eastern Europe. Um, so let's dig into it. I'll show you how they play. I'll pop myself off here, and we're going to kind of go over to the vassal module now and blow it up. We'll show you the starting position for the Franks. So they've got 2 cubes in each of Normandy, West Francia, East Francia, Aquitaine, Burgundy, and Provence. And then they have a soft power presence in Rome and the papacy itself. Okay. Historically, Charlemagne didn't subdue Saxony. That took him about 200 years. But Bohemia, Bavaria, parts of Friuli, Lombardy, Rome itself, and even some ideas of pushing into Benvenuto during this time, southern Italy. So that's kind of your goal of expansion. The Charlemagne raided the Moravian Ring. There's an event card that plays to that. Lots of event cards related to the Franks in the deck. So probably have the cubes to accomplish most of it, but they have an issue of communications are bad. Travel takes some time around the spur of the Alps here. They have the Umayyads to deal with in Spain, who could push back. In history, Charlemagne tried to push into Spain himself and was stuffed in the Spanish marches, not only by the Umayyads but also the local neutrals and like the Basque people, that type of thing. So, if you think of the Franks as primarily the Holy Roman Emperors, that's kind of the mentality you have when you're controlling them during the game. They're in line with that. Their automatic victory is you want to control 2 cities on the map, plus have the papacy aligned. Now, somebody said when they played the game, there's no Paris, there's no London, because yes, those cities hadn't really been established as cities yet. They wouldn't happen until after the end of this game, actually, right? So if you want cities, you're gonna have to take them by conquest. Now, Rome, it should be one you can hold, and Cordoba is the next kind of most interesting target for the Franks. So if you're looking for the auto win, those are kind of your options as them. Okay. Let's go look at their leaders next. And like I said, you start with the great Charlemagne. So you're at your height of your power in the first turn of the game as a Franks, essentially. He's got a military rating of 3. So he's the best campaigner on the map, I think, in the first epoch. He can administer 10 spaces, so you can build out Charlemagne's historical empire. And he gets to muster 2 cubes, so you can add a good amount of cubes during your first turn as well. And then if you have the papacy aligned, this is a special, then you get to re-roll a d6 while you're campaigning with the Franks. So you want to try and push the papacy in alignment as soon as you can so that you get a little extra benefit during your military conquest during the turn. Victory point goals, papacy aligned, control 11 or more. This is kind of the most ambitious control goal you'll have. Latin religion in 9 or more that's a typo. I apologize. It should be 15. So you need to flip 2 provinces to Latin Discs 2 or more, you have to remember that that disc in the papacy counts as a disc on the map for that victory point. So as long as you can hold the papacy and keep your disc in Rome, you're fine for that one. And then econ of 10 plus seems to be hard to get because they're not a very effective administrators, the Franks, and they're not very effective at fundraising. But so Charlemagne, you start with Charlemagne and you're kind of in the driver's seat. And then you get his son Louis the Pious next. And he's fine as well. And you get +1 muster and +1 administration at the end of the turn if you have the papacy in alignment. So then that's another reason to keep Roman control and the papacy aligned. He gets a military rating of 2 as well, so he can fight a bit. Admin of 8 or up to 9, muster of 1 up to 2. Okay, so you really have 2 workable leaders until you get to the 3rd epoch, and then you have the Treaty of Verdun. This was historically the split between the 3 kids of Louis the Pious, and you had the Eastern Frankish Empire, West France, Germany, and then Lothar's lands were cut out of the middle, the weird Lotharingia, which kind of became like Belgium and the Netherlands and the Swiss cantons and northern Italy type of thing. But for game purposes, you're either going to add revolts in Saxony, East Francia, and Bavaria at the start of the turn, or you're going to add revolts to West Francia, Burgundy, and Lombardy. Right? This represents the split. And so at the beginning of the turn, you kind of have to decide which way you want to go with the empire. Okay, so that's the Epoch 3 leader. And then Epoch 4, you get Otto the First, who's a pretty good ruler himself. Same deal, you want to keep the papacy aligned and Rome controlled. If you do that, you get an admin 9 instead of an admin 7. So you can build your empire, Holy Roman Empire, up bigger if you can administer 9 places. But to do that, you need the papacy, and you also need Rome. Okay, he's focused on controlling the East, the German lands. Otto was a German, actually was born in Saxony, I believe, the Saxon prince. So you want to control East Francia, Saxony, and Bavaria. That's one of the goals this turn. Okay, and you need to be Latinizing the world and adding discs to the map. So after Otto, he establishes his Ottonian dynasty, which unfortunately none of them were quite as strong a ruler as Otto himself, and they were into some weird millennialism type of stuff. But same deal. You want the papacy aligned and Rome controlled to get your admin of 9. Okay, that's actually got a typo on that card I need to fix. And the goal here is also to build an empire with adjacent provinces. So instead of being disparate between West and East, you need to control 6 adjacent provinces for that victory point goal. And then after the Ottonians come the next dynasty of the Salians. Essentially, same kind of feel as the Ottonians. 1 military, 9 admin, 1 muster. And your goal is to have the Wendish marches, sort of like the North German plain, and Benvenuto, so southern Italy, under your control by the end of this epoch. And then Henry IV comes into the fold, and his real life career was quite eventful, and he was the one who was humiliated at Canossa by the Pope. We've had many popes during his reign as Holy Roman Emperor, all kinds of stuff happening. So you do get a reroll on campaign if you keep the papacy Frankish and not in crisis. So as long as it's aligned or neutral and also blue Frankish, you get to reroll a d6, and he does have a military rating of 2. So Henry was a capable campaigner, and you're almost thinking like it's a little bit of a lesser Charlemagne. Okay, but you've got more to accomplish by this part of the game. So turn 7. And then turn 8 is the next Henry V. And Henry V special is his marriage to Matilda of England. And this allows you to take $5 from the Normans and award them 1 victory point. That's your decision. So if you take the $5 from the Normans at the beginning of the 8th epoch, they get 1 victory point in consolation. And this was the dynastic marriage, kind of tying England to the continent during this time period. And like every other epoch, you want the papacy aligned, right? So Rome and the papacy are really your focus as you're playing the Frankish Empire in this game. So what can they do, and what's a little different, and what's not? Here we'll pop open their primary action sheets and have a look at that. They're limited, right? They really were not. They were the least developed empire of any of the six in the game, especially at the beginning of the game. And it took them a while to even have the kind of literacy in their region that the other empires had a couple hundred years before them. So they're a little more limited. They can march, muster, activate neutrals, build, and subjugate. So they have like the chalk basic actions for their primary actions. Special actions are also pretty chalky. Like they can campaign and tax. Their tax adds a revolt on a 5 or a 6, so you want to bear that in mind. They're a little more likely to add revolts by taxing than the Byzantines are. They can conduct missions, just like the Byzantines are going to do that a lot. They can emissary, which you also need to use to push your cylinders around and conduct more missions with them. And then their final special action is the tribute action. And the tribute gives you a reason to put cubes into spaces that are not Christian. Because the Frankish attitude was essentially, if you're not going to convert, then we're going to take what you have, right? So, and how it works is that if you're in a province where you have Frankish cubes and non-Christian religion, you roll a d6. On an even roll, you add $1 to the Franks, and on an odd roll, you exchange a piece. So that this works similar to the Maula piece, Maula special action that the Muslim factions have. Okay. But then also you need to check on a 5 or a 6. You also add a revolt to the location. So by ripping stuff up, the Franks can also cause some headaches in the region. And unfortunately for the Franks, their cubes are usually operating sort of in the Saxony, Bohemia, Moravia, Slovenia, Dalmatia, Friuli, kind of the parts of Central and Eastern Europe that they want to sort of take control of. But by tributing there to try and take pieces, there's a chance that they can make it harder for themselves to administer those locations. Okay, so that's how the Franks work. They get sort of pinched as the game goes on. They have the home base of Rome is what they want to focus on, but they also can't leave France and Germany alone at the same time. And it's going to take a push into Cordoba or something creative like pushing for Constantinople during the Crusade in order to get to the auto win of 2 cities plus the papacy. Okay, so those are the Franks. We got 2 more factions to go. Probably pop those up there tomorrow. But hope you enjoy this one and look forward to playing with them. Thanks.